This is The Joe Gaither Show on BamaCentral.com.
Good afternoon, Tuscaloosa, Internet world, West Alabama. How we do it today on this Monday? It is The Joe Gaither Show right here on BamaCentral, BamaCentral.com. You're checking us out on the BamaCentral YouTube channel, or you're watching us on my own social media machines at Joe Gaither 6 on Facebook, Twitter, or YouTube. We're having a whole lot of fun hanging out in the Derek Daniel State Farm Studios right here off McFarland Boulevard. Well, I encourage you guys to check Derek Daniel and his team out. 205-758-3391 for all of your insurance needs. Call and see how much Derek can save you today. We're going to have a lot of fun, or we're going to try to have a lot of fun. Oh, can we have any fun? Is there any fun to be had? Well, first, before we get going, we need to tell you guys how excited we are because we're making a pretty big change. We're welcoming semi-permanent. Obviously, it won't be every single day, but a lot of days. We're going to be having my friend Mason Woods join the show from here on out. Mason Woods has broken free from the minds of manual labor and is crossed over into media permanently. So, Mason, thank you so much for being a part of the show. So sad that our first show together, our first official show together with you on the payroll, it may not be that fun. Are you doing okay? Have you survived? The sun did come up in Tuscaloosa. Have you survived the day so far? Really, 2 days so far after Alabama lost to Tennessee 24-17.
It's been tough. It's been rough. There's not really any other way to put it. It has been a rough 48 hours for anybody who follows the Tide, anybody that was watching that game. Which I don't want to say we told you so, but we have talked about this before, and I'm pretty sure we talked about it the last time I was on the show. This being a bit of a game to watch. It's tough. Just about everything that could have gone wrong for Alabama did. That they really couldn't get anything going anywhere. They couldn't capitalize on any of Tennessee's mistakes. They couldn't move the ball on offense, passing or running the ball. Really, you have a few spurts here and there. You make a few completions here, maybe. Bad all around. Bad play calling, bad coaching, bad play from the defense, bad play from the offense, bad special teams. I mean, every phase of the game.
Oh my gosh, you just reminded me. We were taking notes before our show got started today. I didn't even write anything down on Graham Nicholson, and we've got to work that into the show somewhere. But what we're going to do today, we're just going to kind of go over the Alabama and Tennessee loss. We invite you to jump in and leave us a comment on the BamaCentral YouTube channel. We see a lot of your comments already on those press conferences. Just a little breaking news. Nick Sheridan's not reading those comments. Kane Womack is not in the BamaCentral comments. I am. I'm happy to read your comments. We enjoy them. You can leave them on our show for sure, right there on the BamaCentral YouTube channel or at Joe Gaither 6 if you want to react real time. We're going to talk about the run game, the lack of usage. Oh my gosh, we thought going into the year, Jam and Justice, best running back duo in the country, takes me back to Mark and Trent Richardson, 2009. No. So we'll talk about the running game. We're going to talk about Jalen Milroe. Is he hurt? Should you bench him? What in the world went wrong with Jalen Milroe? We'll talk about 4th and 22, a screen pass. Should you have punted the ball? What in the world was that about? We'll talk about the defense, getting a little lucky here and there, but making their own luck, also getting a lot of havoc plays and doing, everything they needed to do for the offense to win the game. We'll talk about the defense, a guy who really left his all out there in Neyland Stadium for the Crimson Tide, but it just wasn't enough. We'll talk about Dylan Sampson, just as we predicted last week, became a problem for Alabama in the second half. And then we will finish with a huge topic, discipline. And we have like 18 chapters written down under the discipline chapter, starting with you, Josh Chapman. I don't want to get in a fight with you, Josh, because you are the man, and you could easily squash me like a bug. And I'm not doing what you're doing in a day in and day out basis. But what are you doing, man? Walking into the stadium with a cigar in your mouth. I know it's the cigar game, and I know it wasn't lit. Technically, it wasn't lit, so I know it's not celebrating. But yes. Walking in like you already won the game. We'll get to that at the very, very end. You guys can jump in and join us on the comment section at Joe Gaither 6. But Mason Woods, let's start with Nick Sheridan, and let's start with the Alabama run game. You give Jam Miller 12 carries. You give Justice Haynes 8 carries. The whole game, collectively 20 carries between them. Just terrible rushing. 75 rushing yards total with the team. I think that Jam had like 40 something, and Justice had like 20 something, and then Jalen chipped in with another 10 or 11 on like 14 carries. What is it going to take for Alabama? I mean, we talked about it week in and week out on the show. We've talked about it with you before. We talked about it with all of us. So what's it going to take for Alabama to say, you know what, we're going to commit to the run game with Jam and Justice?
I don't know at this point. I mean, we were talking about it before the show. Jalen Miller threw the ball 27 times in the first half of this. It was pretty obvious it wasn't working too well, so I don't know why they stuck with it going into the second half. Like you said earlier, we have 2 running backs who coming into the season were supposed to, bring Bama football back, bring this rushing attack back that we know so well and that Bama fans have relied on for so long, that Alabama has relied on for so long. But it's just non-existent this year. And you wonder, is it Kalen DeBoer? He just has a system that he wants to implement that Jalen Milroe maybe can't quite play in. He can't quite do the things that DeBoer is asking him to do. If that's the case, though, let's adjust the system. Milroe's not going to be here next year. You can get onto that when another quarterback takes over. When someone who has the skill set.
All right, we're going to talk about Jalen in just a minute, but I want to focus just really on the run game. You've got 20 carries between the two of them. Like we said, 8 of the carries are RPOs. And okay, that's fine. I believe I wrote 8 on those 8 carries. You hit like 30 something yards. I wrote this at like 4 a.m. this morning. So if you read the cover this morning on BamaCentral.com, I'm sorry that came off maybe a little sleepy looking at Alabama's run game. But you only really utilized it a couple of different times. You utilized it when you were on the goal line with Justice Haynes late. He scored you a touchdown right there. You're at the 6 yard line or so. You used it couple times backed up in your own end. I mean, these are obvious times where you're going to hand the ball off to the running back. Okay. But then the best part, like you really got into it first drive of the second half. Defense gets themselves a stop. Didn't they get a stop right out of halftime? Yeah, they got a 3rd down and they ultimately got a stop. You got the ball back on offense and you subbed Wilkin Formby in at right tackle. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but I know, look, a lot of the offensive linemen are dealing with injuries. I know Jaden Roberts in particularly is playing a little bit banged up, but the right side of the offensive line is struggling. You sub in Vandermark, you sub in Wilkin Formby. Vandermark wasn't in on the first drive. It was Roberts. And you go 5 straight runs and you get out to midfield. And then it's just like that was it. You called 4 carries, 4 running back carries, 4 times in the fourth quarter did you hand the ball to these 2 guys. And I know that Jalen is the man. Look, he is your most athletic player on the team. And I'm not going to sit here and say don't throw to Ryan Williams. 18 targets is maybe a little too much, but I'm not going to say don't throw to Ryan Williams. Any plan that says you're throwing to Ryan Williams is probably a good one. But why? I mean, what am I missing, Mason, in Jam and Justice's game? What am I missing in the offensive line? You're getting a lot of pin and pull, and that's working for you. You're not as successful just kind of lining up, getting downhill at people, but I also contend that you haven't been committed to it, and those things take time. Look at Tennessee. Tennessee goes, 10 carries to Dylan Sampson in the first half, just sporadically, and then it was, 12, 13 more in the second half, and by the time the game is worn on, he scores the touchdown, and it's like, oh, he's going to be a problem the rest of this game because it's just worn on you. So what's it going to take? What am I missing in these 2 guys' games? Is it just stubbornness from Nick Sheridan? Is it just inexperience? I know when I watched the game back, there was a lot of stacked boxes. So, yes, the option is let's throw the ball against these stacked boxes. I get that. That's football sense. And that is, common sense. But 45 times, like at some point you got to say, you know what, Jalen, you know what? I know it's an ugly look, but you got to be a man.
Put a hat on a hat.
You got to go dig somebody out. You got to go dig someone out of their hole or wash them down. I mean, look, you get 3rd and 1 in the first half, and Jalen Miller almost sneaks away for what would have been like a 70-yard touchdown run. That would have been amazing. But then you follow it up the next a little bit later, 4th and 1. You can barely get a yard. You can barely get an inch. And I know 4th and 1, everybody's pinched in there. I get that. But like, you just got to. infuse some attitude into this team. And I think you just gotta force it a little bit.
I agree. I think one of the notes that I wrote down while watching the game was that the running backs were able to run with some patience. They were able to find holes at times and make things happen when it looked like there maybe wasn't going to be something on a certain play. So there were bright spots in the run game. They are both very talented running backs, and it's you look at what they were able to do, and like you said, very limited action, but downhill run game is something that takes time to get going. You look at Derrick Henry in the NFL is a perfect example of getting a downhill running game going. The man will have almost no yards in the first half. They continue to hand him the ball. By the fourth quarter, he's the leading rusher. He's got 2 touchdowns, and he's probably got 40 fantasy. That is a thing that you kind of do just have to force at times. I'm going to sound like the old head, like, oh, you got to run the ball here. But sometimes that's what it takes. There really is, I think, a mental component of just lining up and running the ball, running someone over, and kind of forcing your will onto another team, onto another defense. That's something that Alabama did not do against Tennessee, really ever.
I don't think I have you. I don't know if I'm picking you up at all. I mean, okay. So
let's.
All right. So give me like 2. Just count to 10.
1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7
here.
8.
All right. I'm gonna we can come back to this in just a moment. We'll see. We'll see.